Time now for the finale of Need for Speed Most Wanted. And basically, what I am doing here is I am basically just going to show you the 3 cheat codes I got, and also the how to get the other bonus card that we get in this game from cheat codes. Now basically all the cheat codes are used with the patterns on the D-pad side of the PlayStation 2 controller, and there are certain codes you have to fill out on the left hand side of the PS2 controller in order to unlock those additional features. And this is a clip of me unlocking those additional features right now from the press start screen. This is how you get the cheat codes. So hopefully that gives you an idea of the cheat codes that work, and of course as ever I will leave you the link in the description for the cheat codes, as of which I do get my cheat codes from game FAQs, because they're typically one of the best areas to get cheat codes in my opinion. But anyway, I might as well do a showcase run for the 4 bonus cars that we get. So we need to head into quick race mode. Oh yeah, there's a reason why the Ford GT is there. I will explain that in greater detail in just a minute. And we need to head over to custom race. And of course we get the race types. I'm definitely not doing the drag race because, well, the lane changing, it sucks, and also because, well, there are hardly any straight lines you do in drag races, which in all honesty, I think also sucks when it comes to drag racing in this game. So yeah, fuck that. I think what we're gonna do to start with, let's do a circuit race. And then I'll probably do another one, whichever one I feel like doing. So let's do... yeah, we'll do Heritage Heights. Because why not? And also because... see. So, I think what I'm going to do here is... yeah, let's turn the traffic off. And only 3 opponents. Yeah, we'll leave the difficulty on medium, catch up on, and we'll do... we can do a maximum of 8 laps. However, I think for this, we'll just do 3 laps. Because I do kind of want to get this game over with. So anyway, this is the Castrol Syntac. No wait, sorry, I'm getting my words mixed up. Anyway, this is the Castrol Ford GT that we can unlock via the cheat codes that I mentioned before. And if you were paying attention, one of them did unlock the Ford GT. However, because this is a circuit race, and because these are the bonus cars, basically what we get with these is... oh yeah, by the way, we also get the My Cars option, which is basically just me putting cars in the main menu for customization purposes. I probably don't need to show that off because I already did enough customization in the career mode anyway. So we got all the career mode cars. I don't feel like I need to show you all of them. We also get My Cars, and we also get the bonus cars, which is basically all of the blacklist cars that we got throughout the game. And yes, I did make sure to get all of them because, well, that was the best way for me to realistically stay on the grind without having to do too much of the grind. So yeah, we do get all of the blacklist member cars to start with, as they were used in the career mode, more or less, or how they look in the career mode before you change them up, which is what I did. Anyway, these are the other bonus cars that we get. So we get the Mercedes SL65 AMG for beating the 30-minute pursuit in the challenge mode. We also get the Chevrolet Corvette C6R, which is basically unlocked by us completing both the career mode and the challenge series mode. In other words, we basically unlocked this car for getting 100% all over the board. Or across the board, I should say. And for just completing the challenge mode, we also get this, the Porsche 911 GT2 from 2003, if I'm not mistaken. I think this car was made in 2003 when I looked on the fandom. The Need for Speed fandom we're referring to now. Anyway. And of course, as I said before, the aforementioned Ford GT that we unlock through a cheat code. And I would assume the reason why the number is 05 is because this car technically was first produced as a production model in basically the same year this game was released, which was 2005. And yes, it was 2005 when this car officially made it into Ford's production assembly, but the initial stint with the GT was short-lived, sadly. But anyway, we are going to showcase our bonus cars. And I think because we're not using the Corvette first, we're going to do this the simple way. And we're going to start off in Highlands, where we are going to do 5 laps, and we are going to start this off by using the car we got for beating the 30-minute pursuit in challenge mode. The SL65 AMG. I knew this car was in the game somewhere, I could just never quite find it. But anyway, so we got a Lamborghini, a Merc a Merc SL500, and I think that's a Porsche Cayman. Okay. And this car has got low RPM compared to the other cars I have driven recently. I think I might actually be terrible at this. I should have put this down too easy. Because I think this is already giving me enough trouble as it is. Especially since, well, when I was on my way to winning, I suddenly wound up wrecking with a tree. When I was only meters away from the final corner. And then basically once that happened, I went straight into a tree, and basically my run was dead. So, yeah. I think doing quick race beyond the easy difficulty, yeah, you're going to be in for quite a challenge. Especially if you wind up using one of the bonus cars. Which probably is what's going to happen, the way I see it. Fuck you. There was nothing I could do about that. He literally forced me into the wall. There was very little that could be done in that instance. Anyway. I am back up into the lead. So I think for the rest of this, it's probably easier if I just go with the easy difficulty rather than the medium difficulty, because this is now already my third attempt of trying not to finish last. And already, it feels like at this point my car is physically overpowered by the AI. In other words, the AI here, they feel physically overpowered compared to me. Which kind of sucks. But at the same time, it's also because, well, generally, I don't normally consider myself to be much of a good driver in these games anyway. Because, well, street racing games, they're really not my specialty. So basically what I have learned from this is, if you're wanting an easy ride, then don't go beyond the easy difficulty. Because if you do, the AI will be all over your ass. They will basically do whatever the fuck it takes to physically kick your ass. Because that is what has been happening up to this point. And it's been happening frequently enough to the point where it becomes so blatantly obvious that you either have to change your driving style, or you basically just have to go down to the easy difficulty just so you can physically shut your mouth in terms of complaining about just how the AI is overpowering you. Which is kind of what's happening here. But at least I'm not doing this on the hard difficulty, because if I was, then by this point, I wouldn't even stand a chance. Because I would probably have the AI giving me what would essentially be the Unicron treatment. In other words, my car would be beaten to death, and then I would basically turn into scrap metal. And everyone crashed. Which means I now have the advantage. Which means I have to make sure I don't crash. As long as I don't crash right at the end, then there's a good shot that this race should be done. As both Criminal and Tencent are behind me. Anyway, third time's the charm at Highlands. And we succeed in the Mercedes SL65 AMG with a finishing speed of 150. Joey second, Criminal third, and Tencent finished in fourth. With a top speed in the end of 171 for me, and those are all the other stats. And my best lap in the end came on the last lap with a 53.4. And that was also... And Tencent had the fastest lap of the race with a 50.6. But either way, I still set the best overall stats, with my average speed being 128, and a top speed in the end of 171. Okay, that's my run done with the SL65 AMG. Now we can move on to our second car, as this time we will do... let's head to Omega for the next one. So this time we're going to do 3 laps, and the traffic is off, 3 opponents. Yeah, you know what? Considering I won by 5 seconds in the end of the previous race, I'll keep the difficulty on medium. And this time we're going to use the Corvette. The car we win for getting 100% in both the career mode and the challenge series. Alright, let's go. And manual transmission as always. Let's get it on with the Corvette C6R. Because we can. So we got a CLK 500, a Mazda RX-7 FD, and a Audi A4. And already off to a good start in this thing, as I would have figured, because obviously, well, we are using a race car, very much like the N3 GTR. And this thing has got superb speed. And right now, we seem to be doing okay. And I go straight into a garage. Still, this thing is definitely fast. I'm honestly not surprised to say that I darted straight into the garage. I could honestly say something like that was inevitably going to happen, because I was probably going too fast for the corner entry anyway. But right now, this car actually feels nice to drive. It's definitely fast. And you know what? I like it that way. I obviously wasn't going to pick one of the longer circuits for this, because, quite honestly, I have already spent enough time on the longer circuits throughout the career mode. I don't really want this to take too long, I just want to give a few tribute runs with this thing. I think I should have increased the difficulty to hard for this, because I am currently smoking the rest of the competition at the moment on just outright speed, because that's just how quick the C6R is proving to be. And I gotta say, this thing sounds amazing. I should also mention this is technically the car that Cross drives as well in the career mode. I'm pretty sure he does drive a police variant of the C6R, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a wall. Anyways, final lap. I know that was a bit late, but either way, we're doing alright. Which is what we need to do. And that's a toll booth. Anyway. Okay, we're doing alright for now. And it looks as though I have basically just... It looks as though at this point I have basically just stonked the field with this thing. Even though I am still hitting toll booths. But either way, the field is not even close to me. That's just how much outright pace this thing has. And I prove that with a concrete performance. Leading all 3 laps and basically just dominating from there. As I set a time of 4 minutes and 5 seconds flat. Robert second, then it was Lee who finished in 3rd, and Smoothie finished in 4th. And my top speed in the end was 192. Meanwhile it was Lee who had the top overall speed of 194. And those are all the other stats, while my average speed was 141. And I won in the end by 6.5 seconds. It probably would have been more had I not hit that toll booth, but whatever. Don't care. Another race is done. And then once I am done with these 4 cars, I can basically sign off. So this time, I think we're going to head down into Rockport for our next one. Yeah, we'll do Century Square. Why not? And we'll do... Yeah, let's do 4 laps. And we are going to use this. The Porsche 911 GT2. I should probably also lower the difficulty whilst I'm here. Because the Porsche, its top speed is pretty slow. And also because, well, I want to at least showcase that I am ending this on a high. So we've got ourselves a Porsche 911 Carrera S. And we're doing 4 laps around Century Square. I think I also noticed a Pontiac behind me. Okay, so we got a Porsche. Okay, I'm actually going to look at my opponents this time because the game is not going to tell me what cars my opponents are in. So we got a Cobalt, a Porsche 911 Carrera, and I think the other one was an Audi A4. Again, this is probably more of a personal preference, but I think it is slightly annoying in terms of intricate details to say that you don't get to see exact details over what cars your opponents are driving. I think that's one thing that the 3 previous games had, and for some reason this one doesn't. I think that's probably one detail they could have added, because it would have been helpful for me to actually know what cars it is I am up against heading into every race. As our opponents, if I forgot to mention them, are Ricky, Mango, and Thrust. And this car is pretty slow, I'm not gonna lie. There probably is a reason why I put this down to the easy difficulty. Because I probably knew the top speed of this car was not going to be very effective. But that's also why I chose Century Square. Because it's basically a short track in terms of its distance in this game. Or more or less a short track, give or take. Whatever your description may be. But anyway, 2 laps down. I can certainly say rubber banding is strong around here. But for now, I am holding on to the lead. Here's to hoping this time around I don't wreck my car and leave it on its roof. Which was what happened last time. Again, I still think there was no reason for them to remove the intricate details of what vehicles my opponents were in. That is one crucial detail that I think could have made this game better. But they chose not to. That's probably just a personal preference, but it is one recommendation, I think, that would have made this game better. Because, well, I am someone who likes his accurate attention to detail. But, whatever. It is what it is. It's not me saying for that reason the game is bad, because it's not. The game is far from bad. It's just one recommendation from me that could have made this game better. That's all it is. Although I do wonder if the Most Wanted Papega mod probably does have that intricate detail. But I don't know. Again, that's more of a personal preference. Anyways, pretty much led the race from wire to wire with a 3.7 second victory, or wait, am I reading this right? A 3.69 second victory, nice, over Ricky. Thrust finished in 3rd, and it was Mango who finished in 4th. As my top speed in the end was 167, but I had the highest average speed of 127. So there we go. So that's now 3 out of the 4 cars we have used in this bonus car showcase. And no, I won't do a sprint race. I'll do another circuit race. Am I this time? Yeah, we'll do Ironhorse. Because then that way we will have basically done one race in all of the regions. Because part of Ironhorse technically is in Camden Beach. So yeah, we're going to do that to end this off. And back up to medium difficulty. And now, all we have left is this. The Castrol Syntec for GT. Let's do it to it. And then afterwards I can sign off on the game. So for our final race of this game, we get an Evo 8, a Corvette, and a Pontiac GTO. And already I lose it on the start. But you know what? I think I'll be okay with that. We're only doing 2 laps around Ironhorse. I think this car is pretty fast. We're probably not going to have too many issues here in terms of where we stack up. Plus, I know because there are no cops on the road, that's one thing we don't have to worry about during quick race mode, which I think is nice, because I technically have beaten the game in pretty much all the pursuits I need to do from wire to wire. But yeah, now that I have experienced this game, I definitely understand why a lot of people say this game is supposedly the best. And I say supposedly because, well, there were definitely a lot of kids during this time that were no doubt spoiled by the rush of adrenaline that this game probably gave them when they were younger. And yes, yours truly also once had that sort of experience, even though I never actually did anything in terms of the game playability wise until I started this playthrough. But since I have played a lot more Need for Speed games since then, I have given myself more of a compassionate understanding of these games with their virtually unique appeals and also what in essence makes them tick. And whilst I do think this game is great, I also think that to me this game does draw a lot of parallels as I scrape the wall with my front end. Probably needed to use the speed breaker there for a second, or else I would have lost even more pace. But it's okay, because we still have time to make up for our losses. And making sure I don't hit anything. Getting myself quickly back up to speed and catching up to the Evo. Around the outside, hitting less than 200 as I head through the right-hander into the tunnel. I don't think I've actually gone over 200 in this thing yet. Well, it's probably not going to matter anyway, because, well, after going through this much speed, I'm honestly just glad to say the game is over. Or almost over. This game does not want to be put to bed the way I want it to be put to bed. I have no idea how I made it out of there without hitting those water barrels. Anyways, I win. And I beat Ross to the line by 2.5 seconds. So I gotta say, the finish of that race was pretty wild. But anyway, those are your results. I win in the Castrol Ford GT by 2.5 seconds over Ross. Then it was Lil Timmy in 3rd and Tipler finished in 4th. You know, that was actually a good race to end this off. So my top speed in the end was 197, an average speed of 134, and a margin of victory in the end by 2.5 seconds over Ross, who had a top speed of 201 and an average of 130. Meanwhile, Little Timmy had the highest top speed with 202. And in terms of lap times in the end, I probably had the oh, never mind. It was Lil Timmy who had the fastest lap of the race with the 1:46.59. Meanwhile, both my lap times were 1:51s. Okay, anyway. Margin of victory from first to last, 6.09 seconds. Okay, I think we're done now. We've given a showcase to all of the cars here, and I think all that's left for us to do now is to look over our stats. So anyway, there we go. This game is done. It's well and truly done. 100% in the career completion, and also P1 in all of the rap sheet rankings, as I will show you now. So, lifetime pursuit, with all of them combined, I did less than 6 hours of overall pursuits. Longest pursuit was 31 minutes and 22 seconds for a single pursuit. Then with total police vehicles involved in a single pursuit, we had 234, clearly set by me. And over a lifetime, I had 2,095 police vehicles involved over a lifetime. Police vehicles damaged in the end, 683 over a lifetime pursuit. And in a single pursuit, we damaged 57 police vehicles in the Porsche. Then with vehicles immobilized, we got 62, which is the highest over Taz. And over a lifetime, we got 458 police vehicles immobilized. Roadblocks dodged in a single pursuit, I hold the top spot with 37, and 262 roadblocks dodged over a lifetime, pretty much in the game overall. Spike strips dodged in a lifetime, 143, and in a single pursuit, I tie with Razor for the top spot with 30 spike strips dodged in a single pursuit. There is no way I'm doing the 30-minute pursuit again in this game. At least not for a while. And in the cost to state for a single pursuit, we got the highest with $654,450. And over a lifetime, $5.556 million. In total damages across the board. Infractions recorded, 8 infractions is what we got in the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren with 8, clearly at the top, and no one stands in my way. And over a lifetime, I got 565 infractions recorded across the career. Now, in helicopters deployed over a lifetime, we got 44, and in a single pursuit, we deployed 7 helicopters with our Porsche Carrera GT. And last but not least, in terms of pursuit bounty achieved, over a single pursuit, we got 5.3 million in the Porsche Carrera. And over a lifetime, we get 25.847 million, which is clearly ahead of the next best guy, Clarence. Anyway, there we go. So, you know all the other stats. We evaded 132 pursuits, and we got busted in the end 6 times. Which is about where I expected myself to be with the M3 GTR with that escape Rockport pursuit. But anyway, there we go. So those are my stats on the rap sheet, and these are my overall stats. And so, I think all I'm going to do now is switch back to the Ford GT and basically just do this my way. And so, everything is done. And now, that will conclude Need for Speed Most Wanted. So there we go. Most Wanted is done. We pretty much bridged every gap we could find in this game. And I gotta say, this is easily one of the greatest street racing games of all time, because of the influence it gave off, and also because of how it's one of those very few video games that does basically give you the full adrenaline push of what some people believe to be the best Need for Speed game. And it is easy to see why a lot of people were definitely spoiled by this game, because of how incredibly cinematic it looks. And just basically the amount of aggression that you basically have to put in to pretty much every race and pursuit you do in this game. It's definitely one of those games that, under the circumstances, influenced me in some ways. But I think as I've gotten older, and I've also grown to understand that there are more Need for Speed games aside from Most Wanted, I gotta say, this game does come close to the top of my Need for Speed rankings, but I won't put it up there at the top, because I have to say, there are a few areas where I think this game could have done better. First of all, I know I said this before, but it would have been nice to have additional details on what cars or vehicle models my opponents were driving. A lot like what they had in the 3 previous games. So there was probably no way to remove that, but they removed it anyway for whatever reason. That's one of my recommendations. I also think if they would have had a replay mode in this game, the cinematic views would have been even more incredible. To just quite literally see your car basically just going at Mach 3 in a pursuit, and then basically just seeing the chaos that just unravels all around you. I think a replay mode would have been incredible in this game, and it definitely would have made it better, in my opinion. I would say the story mode is very much on par with what lots of other racing games during this time technically had. Although, I will say that this game, it did wear me out after a while, just being exposed to that much speed, and then basically just having to push about as hard as your balls can physically take you with some of these pursuits. It definitely was one of those things that certainly tired me out after enough time passed. I also think it would have been helpful if the Challenge series would have had more races available. I mean, yeah, sure, the toll booth time attacks, they technically were races, but at the same time, they were basically just pursuits with extra steps, most of them. So it would have been helpful for there to be some actual racing involved, like what you get in the career mode. Also, I understand this game's unique appeal with most of the progress being done with the pursuits, but it would have been helpful if the challenge series did have some actual racing involved instead of just doing toll booths and pursuits. Also, at one stage in the career mode, the cops will be absolutely ruthless. Basically, once you're a few spots up on the blacklist, the cops will absolutely haul your ass. Once you are probably 2, maybe 3 spots up on the blacklist, that is basically when you realise the cops will physically overpower you, and you probably will get busted a few times. So my recommendation for the career mode is that you turn off autosave if you want to keep a hold of your get out of jail markers like I did. Then that's one recommendation I have. Also, I think with this game's Halo car, the M3 GTR, this is still a staple of both motor racing culture and street racing game culture even today. Because with the M3 GTR becoming as iconic as it would end up being, the car that was quite literally nicknamed the Porsche Killer for its dominance in the ALMS series, when it basically trounced on its arch-rival, the Porsche 911 RSR. I think they probably made the perfect choice with the M3 GTR, especially since this technically is an upgraded performance model to the race spec model, if you will. I still think this is a fantastic game nonetheless. And another thing is, when you get about halfway through the challenge series, that's when you basically know you have to bust your balls to just pass a lot of the remaining challenges you have. Probably from about, I would say, Road 12 onwards. That's when you basically get into the nitty-gritty of knowing just how hard finishing the challenge series really is. You really have got to be fully committed to it. Hands down. Also, when you get busted in this game will basically double down on the aggression that you get from the cops, because basically with every arrested cutscene you get in this game, the police will basically double down, and aside from them arresting you, they will physically beat the avatar of the player to a pulp. Basically making sure that they don't get away. And they will physically slam the player on the road, if that's what it takes, to just simply decapacitate them from escaping and just being brought into the impound and whatever. So yeah, pursuits at one stage in this game, they do get pretty hard, but eventually, as you get towards faster and faster cars later on in the game, and you get used to the higher heat levels, you just kind of get used to it, and then eventually you realise that the sense of speed you thought you didn't have before, well, it basically returns to you once you have unlocked what's essentially the supercars of the game. So, there is that. I do understand why this game was so influential to so many people, and why there are a lot of people in the Need for Speed fandom who will openly say that Most Wanted is their favourite Need for Speed, and they will basically just openly die to defend this game by saying that this game is the best. Because they'll basically just say, it's number one, it's the best, 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 etc, etc, and, well, you get the point. And I know there probably is going to be at least one or two people who will probably say that to me in the comments section by the time this video gets released, or something like that. But personally, I think this game, it kind of draws one too many parallels to Hot Pursuit 2 in my opinion. Because if it wasn't for the critical success of Hot Pursuit 2, then we might have never gotten Most Wanted. I think Hot Pursuit 2 is the better game in my opinion, because it has more exclusivity among its car choices. The game is more fun. It's a nice, flowing game that you can just continue playing and then still feel like you had fun playing the game from start to finish, even if you do put yourself on the grind to get the last few cars unlocked. And it's also because, well, with Hot Pursuit 2, you technically do get a best of both worlds, because you're not only playing as the illegal street racer, but you're also playing on the side of law enforcement as well, and you basically get to drive 5 different police cars in the process, whilst you're on the side of law enforcement. Which I will say is what makes Hot Pursuit 2 a slightly better game than this one, because you do get that best of both worlds scenario. And the other thing is, aside from that, it also has an absolute banger of a soundtrack, which is what my music taste leans towards. And it's also because, well, the game is just designed to be fun. That's what I think makes Hot Pursuit 2 slightly better than Most Wanted. But I will put this game in P2 on my list. I will put it above Underground 2, because the sense of speed that this game has, it doesn't quite top my list, and I know one or two of you are going to tell me about that over why they think this game is the best, but whatever, it's fine. I still think that this game lives up to the hype even today. And it is fair to say that this game does draw a lot of parallels with Hot Pursuit 2 if you have played both games. And I think you probably should play the 3 previous games before Most Wanted, because then you'll have more of an understanding of which game you think is the outright best. I personally think Hot Pursuit 2 is the best, but I know we all have differing opinions on which Need for Speed game is the outright best. There are basically pros and cons with every Need for Speed game over which one you think is the top dog. But yeah, it is what it is. I feel like I have probably explained everything I need to explain. Also, when you get down to the final pursuit in this game, the cops will basically be even more relentless. So if you have experience, then you basically need to be ready for when the chaos ensues. Whichever game you think is the best is entirely your choice. I still think this game lives up to the hype even today. And I do recommend you play it, but what I also recommend is that you play the 3 predecessors that came before this one, so you can be decisive on which one you think is the outright best. I should also mention, this game did go on to, ironically, inspire a musician to basically become emboldened with how diverse this game's soundtrack is. And also, you know, as I said before, with the M3 GTR being this game's Halo car, it basically is what many people consider to no doubt be a cult icon of street racing games today. And the car still very much lives up to its name in terms of it being iconic. And yeah. So basically my recommendation is play Need for Speed Most Wanted, but make sure you also play any one of the 3 previous games, which is basically either Hot Pursuit 2 or the 2 NFS Underground games, so you have a diverse selection on which game you think overall is the best. And that's pretty much going to wrap it up. I'm basically rambling at this point, so I'm just going to sign off on the game now. So, as always, a big thanks to everyone for watching. You pretty much know the drill by now. Like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more from this channel. And until the next playthrough, I'm Jordan Mustang 87. Going to take a 2-week break before I get on with my next one because, well, this game did wear me out, as I said before. And I kind of need a break before getting on with the next one. So, yeah. Until the next game I do, guys and gals, this is Jordan Mustang 87 saying stay safe out there, and we will see you then.